Close your eyes. There is no need to focus on these words. My voice is simply a soft sound in the background, like the wind moving through the tall grass of the Italian countryside. We are going back, far back, to the time of the Roman Empire between the years 27 BC and 180 AD. But there are no battles here, no kings, no speeches. There is only the quiet, slow rhythm of a cold evening in a stone barrack. The sun is setting now. The sky outside the heavy wooden gates is turning a pale, dusty blue, then a deep, silent indigo. The air is growing crisp. You can feel the coolness of the stone floor under your feet. It is solid. It has been there for 100 years, and it will be there for 100 more. There is no rush. Everything is moving very slowly. You do not need to remember any of this. You can let the details float past you. In the corner of the room, a small oil lamp sits on a wooden ledge. The flame is tiny, a small point of amber light. It does not flicker much because the air in the barrack is still. The walls are thick, made of heavy limestone blocks. They hold the silence of the evening. Outside, the sounds of the Roman city are fading. The distant clatter of a wooden cart on cobblestones is growing softer, softer, until it is gone. The city is preparing for rest, and so are you. The Roman soldiers here are not thinking of glory. They are thinking of the weight of their own limbs. They are thinking of the simple warmth of a shared space. It is cold, yes, but the cold is not an enemy. It is just a part of the night. It is a reason to move slowly, to conserve energy, to settle into the stillness. You might wonder how they stayed warm without the thick, heavy blankets we use today. But in this moment, that question doesn't require an answer. Just imagine the texture of the tunics they wore. They were made of thick, heavy wool, woven tightly by hand. The wool feels rough, but it is honest and warm. It smells faintly of wood smoke and cedar. The soldiers sit on the edges of their wooden bunks. The wood is old and smooth from years of use. They move with deliberate slowness. One soldier unties the leather straps of his sandals. The sound of the leather pulling through the metal loops is a soft, rhythmic shick, shick, shick. It is a peaceful sound. There is no hurry to finish. Each strap is loosened with care. The feet meet the cool floor, and then they are lifted onto the straw-filled mattresses. The straw inside the mattresses makes a dry, crinkling sound. It is a dusty, earthy smell, the smell of sun-dried grain. It is a quiet sound, crackle, crunch, settle. As the soldier lies down, the straw adjusts to his weight. He is not alone. In this room there are 8 men. They are like a family. They share this small space, and their breath creates a soft, collective rhythm. In and out, in and out. The room is dim. The shadows on the ceiling are long and soft. There is nothing to do, no orders to follow, no tasks to complete. The night is long, and the only requirement is to exist in this quiet, heavy space. The cold air stays near the ceiling, while the warmth of the men lingers near the bunks. They wear their heavy wool cloaks called the pinula. It is a thick, hooded garment. They do not need a blanket because they are wearing their warmth. The wool is heavy on their shoulders, pressing down with a comforting weight. Listen to the silence between my words. That silence is the same silence that filled the barracks 2,000 years ago. The world was darker then. The nights were deeper. When the sun went down, the world truly stopped. There were no bright lights, no humming machines. Just the sound of the wind pushing against the stone and the occasional soft shift of straw in a bunk. The soldiers do not speak. They do not need to. They are resting their eyes. The stone walls around them are thick enough to block out the world. Inside these walls, it is safe. It is predictable. The routine is the same every night. The sun goes down, the lamp is lit. The sandals are removed and the wool cloaks are wrapped tightly around the body. Imagine the texture of the wool against your skin. It is heavy, it is coarse, but it traps the heat of the body perfectly. The soldiers tuck their hands into their sleeves. They pull the hoods of their cloaks up over their heads. They become small islands of warmth in the cool, dark room. The floor is cold, but they are not on the floor. They are tucked away in their wooden frames, held up by the scent of dry grass. The oil in the lamp is burning low now. The scent of the olive oil burning is very faint, slightly fruity, slightly smoky. It is a humble smell. It reminds the soldiers of home, of olive groves in the sun, but that was a long time ago. Now there is only the night. The shadows are growing taller as the flame sinks into the wick. You are safe. You are still. There is nothing you need to learn. If your mind wanders, let it wander. If you fall asleep, that is exactly what should happen. The Roman Empire is not a place of history books right now. It is just a quiet room with stone walls and the sound of soft breathing. The soldiers are drifting now. Their thoughts are like clouds passing over a moonlit field. One soldier thinks about the grain he ate for dinner, a simple porridge of emmer wheat, warm and filling. He can still feel the warmth of it in his stomach. It is a heavy, grounded feeling. Another soldier listens to the owl outside, a distant hoo, that punctuates the stillness. The barracks are part of a larger camp, a castra. Beyond these walls are thousands of other men, all doing the same thing, all untying their sandals, all wrapping themselves in wool, all settling into the straw. It is a massive, silent choreography of rest. The entire Roman army is falling asleep, one stone room at a time. The cold air from the window, a small, narrow slit high up in the wall, drifts in. It smells of damp earth and night air. It touches the tip of the nose, but the rest of the body is encased in wool. The contrast is pleasant. The cool air makes the warmth of the cloak feel even deeper. There is no tension in the shoulders. There is no tension in the jaw. Like the Roman soldier, you can let your weight sink into whatever is supporting you. The stone walls are strong. They have held up the roof for decades. They will not move. You are supported. You are enclosed. The flame of the lamp flickers once, twice, and then it goes out. The room is now bathed in the soft, natural darkness of the ancient world. It is not a scary darkness. It is a velvet darkness. It is a blanket of its own. In this darkness, the stone walls seem to disappear, leaving only the sensation of warmth and the rhythm of breathing. The night is very long. There is so much time to rest. The sun will not rise for many hours. There is no clock ticking. There is only the slow rotation of the stars above the Roman rooftops. The Great Bear, the North Star. They are all there, moving in their slow, eternal circles. Sleep is coming closer now. It is like a slow tide coming in over the sand. It covers the feet, then the knees, then the chest. The soldier closes his eyes. He is not a warrior tonight. He is just a tired man in a wool cloak. He is a part of the earth, a part of the stone, a part of the quiet Roman night. Let the image of the stone barrack fade. Let the sound of the straw settle into silence. There is nothing left to do. The day is finished. The history is still. You are resting. Everything is quiet. Everything is still. Everything is exactly as it should be. The night continues to deepen over the Roman city. You are drifting further into the stillness. There is no need to pay attention to the details. Just let the low hum of my voice carry you like a leaf on a very slow, dark river. We are leaving the stone barracks for a moment and moving through the narrow, winding streets of the city. The cobblestones are smooth and cool, worn down by centuries of sandals and wooden wheels. Now they are silent. The air out here is even cooler than inside the barracks, but it is a refreshing, clean cold. It smells of pine wood being stored in a nearby shed and the faint, lingering aroma of toasted grain. We are approaching a small bakery, a pistrinum. In the Roman Empire, the baker is one of the few people who works while others sleep. But even here, the work is slow, repetitive, and quiet. Inside the bakery, the air is much warmer. It is a thick, dry warmth that smells of yeast and flour. The large stone oven is a massive, rounded shape in the shadows. The fire inside has been pushed back, leaving only a deep, glowing bed of orange embers. There is no bright light, only this soft, pulsing orange glow that reflects off the dusted floor. The baker is a man of slow movements. He does not hurry. He moves with the rhythm of someone who has done this every night of his life. He is wearing a simple, undyed linen tunic. It is light, but the heat from the oven is enough to keep him comfortable. He is currently cleaning a large wooden table where the dough was kneaded earlier in the evening. Listen to the sound of the wooden scraper moving across the heavy oak table. Scrape, slide, pause, scrape, slide, pause. It is a hypnotic sound. It clears away the tiny remnants of flour which float through the air like microscopic snowflakes before settling into the shadows. The baker's hands are rough and covered in a fine white dust. He moves his hand slowly, wiping the surface until it is perfectly smooth. There is a large stone mill in the center of the room. It is made of dark, volcanic basalt. During the day, it turns and grinds the grain into flour, but now it is motionless. It sits there like a silent giant, cold and heavy. The silence of the mill is deep. It feels like a weight that helps pull the room into a deeper state of rest. The baker takes a long wooden paddle, a pala, and moves a few loaves of bread that are cooling on a high shelf. These are the panis quadratus, round loaves marked into 8 sections. They are hard and crusty on the outside, but inside they are soft and dense. As they cool, they make tiny, almost silent cracking sounds, the sound of the crust settling. Tick, tick. It is the only sound in the room besides the baker's slow footsteps. You do not need to think about the bread or the baker. You are just a shadow in the corner of this warm, quiet room. The warmth from the oven is like a physical presence, wrapping around you. It is a dry heat that eases the tension in your muscles. You can imagine leaning back against a cool stone wall while the heat from the oven warms your front. It is a perfect balance. Outside the bakery, a stray dog walks slowly across the street. You can hear the faint click, click, click of its claws on the stone. It is not barking. It is just moving toward a patch of moonlight. The dog finds a spot where the stones are still slightly warm from the afternoon sun and curls into a tight circle. It huffs once, a long exhale of breath, and then it is still. Back inside, the baker sits down on a small wooden stool. He leans his back against the warm brick of the oven. He closes his eyes. He is not sleeping yet, but he is resting. He listens to the silence of the city. He knows that in a few hours, he will have to begin the next batch of dough. But for now, those hours feel like an eternity away. Time in the Roman night is not measured by minutes, but by the slow cooling of the embers and the movement of the moon across the small, square window high in the wall. The moonlight is a pale, silver beam that cuts through the darkness of the bakery. It illuminates the fine dust hanging in the air. The dust motes dance very slowly, rising and falling in the warmth of the oven. Watching them is like watching the slow breath of the building itself. You do not need to follow their movement. You can just let your eyes go out of focus. The baker's breathing is slow and deep, in and out. In and out. He is wearing a simple wool wrap around his waist, and he has a small piece of cloth draped over his shoulders. Like the soldiers in the barracks, he knows how to keep the heat in. The Romans understood the nature of stone and wool. They knew that if you move slowly and stay close to the earth, the cold cannot reach you. Think about the silence of this ancient city. There are no engines. There are no hums of electricity. There are no distant sirens. The only sounds are natural ones. The wind through an alleyway, the distant splash of a fountain in a courtyard. The sound of water is constant in Rome, a soft, bubbling murmur that never stops. It is the heartbeat of the city. It flows through lead pipes and stone channels, a cold, liquid silver that brings a sense of constant, peaceful motion to the sleeping world. The fountain in the square near the bakery is made of marble. The water spills over the edge of a carved basin and falls into a pool below. Plash, trickle, drip. It is a sound that has existed for hundreds of years. It is a sound that will continue long after the baker wakes up. It is a sound that invites you to let go of your thoughts. The water flows and your worries can flow away with it. The baker reaches for a small ceramic jug of water. He takes a slow sip. The water is cool and tastes of the mountains. He sets the jug back down on the stone floor with a soft thud. The sound echoes slightly in the empty room and then vanishes. He adjusts his position on the stool, his wool wrap rustling softly. Everything in this scene is heavy and slow. The stone walls are heavy. The bread is heavy. The baker's limbs are heavy, and your body is becoming heavy too. You are sinking deeper into the Roman night. The cold air of the street is separated from you by thick walls of brick and mortar. You are in a pocket of warmth and safety. The embers in the oven are fading from bright orange to a dull, dusty red. A thin layer of white ash is forming over them. It is like a blanket for the fire, keeping the heat trapped inside the stones. The room is getting darker, but the warmth remains. It is a steady, reliable heat. If you are still awake, imagine the smell of the bakery one last time. It is the smell of survival and comfort. It is the smell of the very foundation of the Roman Empire, grain, fire, and stone. It is a boring smell. It is a simple smell. It is a smell that means everything is all right. The baker finally stands up, his movements fluid and slow. He walks to the door and looks out at the street. The moon is high now, casting long, black shadows behind the columns of a nearby temple. The world is a study in silver and black. There is no one else awake. He feels like the only person in the world. He breathes in the cool night air, then turns back to the warmth of his hearth. He prepares a small mat of woven reeds in a corner away from the oven's direct heat. He lies down, pulling a simple wool cloak over him. He doesn't need a bed of feathers. The reeds are springy and smell of the river. The wool is heavy and warm. He closes his eyes, and within moments, his breathing joins the rhythm of the city. The bakery is now silent. The fire is sleeping. The baker is sleeping. The bread is waiting for the morning. You are waiting for nothing. You are simply here in the quiet, dark heart of the Roman Empire. The stone is beneath you. The wool is around you. The night is above you. There is no rush. There is no noise. There is only the slow, steady pulse of the ancient world at rest. The baker is now fast asleep, and we move away from the warmth of the hearth, drifting through a heavy wooden door into the inner courtyard of a nearby home. This is a modest house, a place where ordinary people live. The air here is still and smells of damp earth and the jasmine vines that climb the stone pillars. There is no need to focus on my words. Let them be like the distant sound of water, flowing softly and without purpose. The courtyard or atrium is open to the sky. High above, a rectangle of deep velvet blue is framed by the roofline. A single star sits perfectly in the center of that opening. It is a steady light, not flickering, just watching over the silent house. There is a small pool in the center of the floor, the impluvium, which collects the rainwater. Tonight, the water is perfectly still. It acts as a dark mirror, reflecting the silver moonlight and the ancient stones. In the corner of the shaded walkway, there stands a large wooden loom. It is a heavy frame of oak leaning against the wall. This is where the clothes of the family are made. During the day, it is a place of rhythmic noise, the clack-clack of the wooden shuttle, the humming of the weaver. But now, it is silent. The half-finished cloth hangs from the top beam, a long sheet of undyed wool. The wool is a soft, creamy white in the moonlight. If you were to touch it, you would feel the natural oils of the sheep. the lanolin, which makes the wool water-resistant and very warm. It is thick and slightly rough. It is the material that keeps the Roman world from shivering. Thousands of tiny fibers are locked together, holding the stillness of the room. Nearby, a basket of wool carding sits on the floor. It looks like a soft, white cloud captured in wicker. There is no movement here. The air is cool, but the house is designed to hold the peace of the night. The thick clay walls have absorbed the heat of the afternoon sun and are now releasing it very, very slowly into the rooms. The weaver, a woman who has spent her day working the threads, is now in the small sleeping room, the cubiculum, just off the courtyard. The room is tiny, barely large enough for her bed. It is a simple frame of wood with leather straps stretched across it to support a mattress. There is no decoration. There is no clutter. She is already deep in sleep. She is wrapped in a large, rectangular piece of wool, the same kind of fabric she spends her days weaving. It is wrapped around her body twice, tucked in at the feet. She does not need a blanket as we know them. She is cocooned in the labor of her own hands. The wool is heavy. It presses down on her, grounding her to the bed, grounding her to the earth. Listen to the sound of the silence in this house. It is not an empty silence. It is a full, heavy silence. It is the sound of stone, wood, and wool resting together. Occasionally, a small leaf from the jasmine vine detaches itself and drifts down, landing on the stone floor with a sound so faint it is almost imaginary. SSS. You are safe in this courtyard. The walls are high. The world outside the heavy front door, the Janua, is far away. There is no one to meet, no work to be done, no expectations to fulfill. You are just a witness to the slow, boring passage of time. The moonlight moves an inch across the floor, then another inch. It is the only thing that is moving. In the kitchen area, a small ceramic pot sits on the remains of a charcoal brazier. The coals are now just white ghosts of themselves, cold and gray. The pot contains a little bit of leftover lentil stew. It is cold now, the surface smooth and still. Next to it lies a wooden spoon, its handle worn smooth by years of stirring. These objects do not need you. They are content in the dark. The weaver's breath is a slow, steady rhythm that matches the heartbeat of the house. In and out, in and out. It is the most natural sound in the world. It is the sound of life persisting in its simplest form. She is not dreaming of anything grand. Perhaps she is dreaming of the color of a new batch of wool or the feeling of the sun on her hands. The Roman night is a time of restoration. Without electricity, the body follows the sun. When the light goes, the energy goes. The muscles relax. The heart slows. The mind becomes like the still water in the courtyard pool, clear, dark, and quiet. There is no need to think. There is no need to remember. Think of the weight of the wool. It is not like a light, synthetic blanket. It has gravity. It feels like a gentle hand pressing down on the shoulders, telling the body to stay still, telling the mind to be quiet. This is how the Romans survived the cold. They did not fight it with fire all night. They embraced it with the weight of the sheep's coat. Outside the house, the narrow street is a canyon of shadows. A gentle breeze blows through, carrying the scent of the sea from a few miles away, a salt-tinged, damp smell. It moves through the open roof of the courtyard, causing the hanging wool on the loom to sway just a fraction of a millimeter. It is a movement so small it can barely be seen. The house is a fortress of boredom, and in boredom there is peace. There is nothing to stimulate the senses, nothing to spark a thought, just the gray stone, the white wool, and the black shadows. The pillars of the courtyard are solid and cold. They have seen thousands of nights like this. They do not tire of the darkness. If you are still awake, imagine yourself sitting on the edge of the pool. The stone is cool beneath you. You are wrapped in a heavy cloak of your own. You are looking up at that one star in the blue rectangle of the sky. You are not waiting for the morning. You are just being. The world is very old, and you are a part of its long, slow history. The same air that the weaver breathes is the air that flows around you. The same stillness that fills her room fills yours. You are drifting. You are sinking. The weight of the wool is pulling you down into the soft, dark depths of sleep. The loom stays silent. The water stays still. The star moves slowly across the opening. The night is long. The night is quiet. The night is yours. The night has reached its deepest point. The weaver is asleep, the baker is resting, and the city has settled into a profound, heavy silence. You are safe. You are still. There is no need to listen closely. My voice is just a soft, rhythmic texture in the air. The Roman night is not empty. It is a space filled with the slow, cool presence of stone and the gentle passage of time. We move now to a small, quiet square where a public water clock, a clepsydra, stands. It is a simple stone structure. Inside, water drips from one ceramic vessel into another at a constant, boring pace. Drip, pause, drip, pause. Each drop is a tiny pulse of history. The sound is tiny, but in the absolute silence of the 2nd century, it is the only thing that marks the movement of the universe. You do not need to count the drops. You do not need to know what hour it is. In the Roman Empire, time is not a sharp, clicking thing. It is fluid. It flows like the water. The night will end when the sun decides to rise, but for now, the sun is on the other side of the world, and the water continues its slow, repetitive journey. A night watchman, a vigil, walks slowly past the square. He is not a soldier of war, he is a guardian of the peace. He moves with a heavy, steady gait. His sandals, caligae, are not studded with metal like a soldier's. They are soft leather to keep his movement quiet. The sound they make on the smooth paving stones is a soft hush. Hush, hush, like the sound of a broom on silk. He carries a small lantern made of thin, translucent sheets of horn. Inside, a tiny wick floats in oil. The light it gives off is not bright. It is a soft, warm amber glow that only illuminates the ground a few feet around him. He is not looking for trouble, for there is none. He is simply part of the night's routine. He checks the heavy wooden doors of the shops, feeling the cool grain of the timber under his hand. The watchman is wearing several layers of wool. He has a heavy tunic, and over it, a thick cloak of dark, undyed wool called a sagum. It is pinned at his shoulder with a simple bronze brooch. The weight of the wet weather wool is comforting. As he walks, the fabric rubs against itself, making a soft swish that only he can hear. He stops for a moment by the water clock. He breathes out, and a faint mist appears in the cool air before vanishing. He is not in a hurry. He has 4 hours of his watch left, and those hours are a gift of silence. He looks up at the moon, which is now casting a sharp, white light on the marble columns of a nearby temple. The marble looks like frozen liquid, cold and ancient. The temple is empty. The gods are silent. The heavy bronze doors are locked with a massive iron key. Inside, the scent of stale incense and cold stone lingers. There is nothing happening there. The statues of the gods stand in the dark, their stone eyes seeing nothing, their carved lips saying nothing. The stillness of the temple radiates outward, adding to the heaviness of the air in the square. The watchman continues his path. He turns into a narrow alleyway where the air is even stiller. Here, the walls of the houses are so close he can touch them with both hands. The stones are damp with the night dew. This dew is a fine, invisible mist that settles on everything, on the stones, on the wooden carts, on the sleeping cats. It makes the world feel soft and blurred. As you listen, imagine the feeling of that cool dew. It is refreshing, but you are wrapped in your own layers of virtual wool. You are protected. You are an observer of a world that is completely at rest. The watchman represents the only movement in a city of 1 million sleeping souls. His presence is a guarantee of safety. Because he is awake, everyone else can sleep more deeply. He passes a small fountain. The water here flows into a long stone trough where horses drink during the day. Now, the surface of the water is a perfect dark mirror. A small leaf floats on the surface, motionless. The watchman dips his hand into the water. It is bitingly cold. He splashes a little on his face to stay alert, but the movement is slow and deliberate. The water droplets fall back into the trough, creating small, circular ripples that expand until they touch the stone edges and disappear. Drip, ripple, settle. The city is a labyrinth of quiet moments. In one house, a charcoal fire has turned to gray ash. In another, a cat shifts its weight on a pile of empty grain sacks. The watchman hears the distant, muffled sound of a dog barking miles away, perhaps in a farm outside the city walls. It is a lonely sound, but it only emphasizes how quiet it is here. The watchman finds a stone bench near a wall that is still radiating a tiny bit of the day's warmth. He sits down. He rests his lantern on the ground between his feet. He leans his head back against the stone. He is not supposed to sleep, but he allows his eyes to close for a moment. He listens to his own breathing. He listens to the heartbeat of the Roman night. The wool of his cloak is thick and heavy against his chest. It smells of the earth and the lanolin of the sheep. It is a natural smell, a boring smell, a safe smell. He feels the solidity of the bench beneath him. He is a small part of a vast empire, but in this moment the empire is just a quiet square, a water clock, and the cold, silver moon. You are like the watchman now. You are resting in a place where nothing is expected of you. The history of Rome is not about emperors right now. It is about the way the cool air feels on a resting face. It is about the way a wool cloak holds the heat of a human body. It is about the slow, boring, beautiful passage of time. The water clock continues to drip, drip, drip. The water in the trough is still again. The watchman's lantern flickers, a tiny pulse of gold in the blue night. Everything is settling. The stone is deep. The night is vast. You are drifting into the spaces between the drops of water. There is no tomorrow yet. There is only this long, slow, quiet tonight. The night watchman has moved on, his soft footsteps fading into the distance. We now drift toward the outskirts of the residential district, near the great stone granaries, the Horia. These are massive, functional buildings designed to store the lifeblood of the Roman Empire, grain. There is no drama here. There is no movement. Only the silent, heavy presence of thousands of tons of wheat and barley resting in the dark. The air around the granaries is different. It is drier, and it carries the deep, dusty scent of a summer harvest. It is a comforting, earthy smell. The buildings are raised off the ground on small stone pillars to keep the moisture away. This creates a space of deep shadow beneath the floorboards, where the cool night air circulates in a slow, invisible dance. Imagine the silence inside a Roman granary. It is a vast, hollow space. The walls are thick brick, and the high ceilings are made of heavy timber beams. There are no windows, only small ventilation slits that allow narrow slivers of moonlight to fall across the floor. These beams of light are filled with tiny particles of grain dust, floating so slowly they seem to be suspended in time. In the corner of the main hall, there is a large pile of emmer wheat. Each grain is a tiny, hard seed, holding the energy of the sun from months ago. Now in the cold Roman night, the grain is still. If you were to plunge your hand into the pile, it would feel cool and smooth, like running your fingers through a river of tiny stones. The sound would be a soft, dry shhhhh, like the sound of a distant sea. The men who guard these stores are not soldiers of the front lines. They are older men, veterans who prefer the quiet of the city. One of them is sitting on a wooden stool near the entrance. He is wrapped in a cloak of dark, thick felt, a material even denser than woven wool. It is called cuculus. It is a hooded cloak that covers his head and shoulders, making him look like a part of the building itself. He is not moving. He is watching the moonlight move across the floor. He does not need to be entertained. He is satisfied with the smell of the grain and the sound of the wind whistling softly through the ventilation slits. WHHH, WHHH. It is a low, mournful sound, but it is also a lullaby. It tells him that the world is still there and that all is well. You do not need to follow his thoughts. They are as slow as the dust in the air. He thinks of the fields in Gaul or North Africa where this grain came from. He thinks of the long, slow journey of the ships across the Mediterranean. But those thoughts are far away. Here, in the dark, there is only the present moment. There is only the weight of the felt on his shoulders and the solidity of the stool beneath him. The temperature in the granary is constant. The thick walls protect the grain from the heat of the day and the cold of the night. It is a neutral place. It is neither hot nor cold. It is a place of perfect balance. You can feel that balance in your own body now. Your breath is becoming as steady as the watchman's. In and out, in and out. Sometimes a small mouse might scurry across the rafters. You might hear the tiny skitter-scatter of its paws on the wood. It is a busy sound, but it only makes the surrounding silence feel deeper. The mouse finds a single grain of wheat, stops, and then disappears back into the shadows. The silence returns, heavier than before. The Roman Empire is built on these quiet moments. Behind the marble statues and the grand speeches are millions of tons of grain, thousands of quiet guards, and the slow, boring passage of the night. It is a stable world. It is a world that knows how to wait. The watchman adjusts his hood. The felt is stiff and heavy. It does not flow like silk. It holds its shape. It creates a small, private tent around his head, keeping his own breath warm against his face. This is how he stays warm without a fire. He uses the heat of his own life, trapped by the density of the wool. It is a simple, effective way to exist. As you drift, imagine you are leaning against the sacks of grain. They are firm like a hard pillow, but they mold slightly to your shape. They smell of the earth and the sun. There is no noise here. The thick walls block out even the sound of the fountain in the square. You are in a cocoon of harvest and stone. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to decide. The grain will stay here until the morning. The watchman will stay here until his relief arrives. The moonlight will continue to crawl across the dusty floor. It is a slow, beautiful boredom. It is the peace of a world that is fulfilled. Listen to the emptiness of the great hall. It is a peaceful emptiness. It is a space for you to rest your mind. Like the grain, you can just be. You don't need to grow. You don't need to move. You just need to exist in the stillness. The stars above the granary roof are invisible to the watchman, but he knows they are there. He knows the rhythm of the seasons. He knows that after the cold of the night comes the warmth of the day, but he is in no hurry for the sun to rise. The night is his time. It is a time of quiet duty and deep rest. The shadows are long, the air is dry, the felt is warm. Everything is heavy, everything is slow, everything is at peace. The heavy silence of the granary stays behind us as we move toward the edge of the city, where the stone buildings begin to give way to smaller structures and gardens. We are approaching a stable, a place where the beasts of burden, the oxen and the donkeys, spend their nights. There is no need to focus on these details. Let my words be like a soft, heavy blanket that you can pull over your thoughts. The air here is different from the dry dust of the grain store. It is thick and warm, filled with the scent of damp hay, old wood, and the deep, earthy smell of large, resting animals. It is a comforting smell, the smell of a farm that has finished its work. The stable is a low building made of rough-cut stone and timber beams. Inside, the darkness is complete, except for the tiny flecks of moonlight that filter through the thatched roof. Listen to the sound of the animals. They do not move much in the night. An ox shifts its weight in the straw, and you hear the slow, rhythmic crunch of the dried grass. Then a long, deep sigh, h-h-h-h-h-h-h. It is the sound of a massive body completely letting go of the day's labor. It is a slow, heavy sound that vibrates through the wooden partitions. In a small corner of the stable, on a loft of sweet-smelling hay, a young stable hand is sleeping. He does not have a bed of bronze or a mattress of linen. He has the hay. The hay is soft and springy, and it holds the warmth of the day's sun. He is wrapped in a thick, coarse cloak made of goat's hair, a cilicium. It is not soft like the weaver's wool, but it is incredibly warm and repels the dampness of the night air. The boy is curled into the hay, and the warmth from the oxen below rises up through the floorboards. It is a natural, living heat. He is tucked away in this small pocket of peace. He does not need to worry about the empire or the taxes or the future. His world is the smell of the hay and the sound of the breathing animals below him. In and out. The breathing of the oxen is slower than a human's. It is a deep, booming rhythm. Huo, haya. It is like the tide of a very calm ocean. If you listen to it, your own breath will begin to slow down. You don't have to try, it just happens. Your pulse slows, your shoulders drop. You are becoming part of the stable's stillness. On a wooden peg near the door, a leather harness hangs. The leather is old and dark, polished by the sweat of the oxen and the hands of the boy. It stays perfectly still. A small spider moves across the buckle, its movements silent and delicate. Everything is in its place. Everything is exactly where it belongs. Outside, a light mist is beginning to rise from the nearby Tiber River. It crawls over the low stone walls and settles in the gardens. It cools the leaves of the olive trees, making them heavy with moisture. But inside the stable, it is dry and warm. The thick thatch of the roof and the stone walls keep the mist away. It is a sanctuary of boredom. The stable hand moves in his sleep, pulling the goat hair cloak tighter around his chin. The fabric makes a soft, scratching sound against the hay, scritch, and then silence again. This is the simple life of the Roman night. There are no lights to turn on. There are no books to read. When the light goes, the mind turns off and the body takes over. Think of the weight of the ox. Thousands of pounds of muscle and bone, now completely relaxed in the straw. The animal is not thinking of the plow or the cart. It is simply existing in the dark. You can be like the ox. You can let your weight sink into the surface beneath you. You can let the world carry on without you. The night is a vast, empty room, and you are just a small part of it. The Roman Empire is vast, but tonight it is just this stable. The stone is cold, the hay is warm, and the air is still. There is nothing to do but wait for the sun, and the sun is many, many hours away. There is a small wooden bucket near the door, half filled with water. A single drop of condensation falls from a beam and hits the surface. Plink. The sound is sharp and clear in the silence. The ripples spread out, hitting the wooden sides, and then the water is a mirror again. The stable hand is dreaming of nothing. His mind is as quiet as the stone walls. The oxen are dreaming of the tall grass, and you are drifting further and further away from the waking world. The Roman night is wrapping you in its heavy, wool-scented arms. The straw is soft, the breathing is slow, the night is deep. There is no noise, there is no hurry, there is only the peace of the sleeping earth. We leave the warmth of the stable and the resting animals, moving back toward the heart of the city, toward a small, private library in a quiet neighborhood. This is a room of stone and cedarwood. The air here is very still, and it carries the faint, dry scent of ancient papyrus and old leather. There is no need to focus on the history or the words. Let the sound of my voice be a slow, steady drift that carries you deeper into the night. The library is a small, rectangular room. The walls are lined with wooden shelving divided into small pigeonholes called nidai. Inside these holes rest the scrolls, the volumina. They are not like the books of today. They are long rolls of papyrus wrapped around wooden sticks. Thousands of years of thoughts are resting here, but tonight the thoughts are silent. They are just objects in the dark. A single oil lamp sits on a low table in the center of the room. The flame has been turned down until it is barely a blue spark, casting a faint, ghostly light on the edges of the scrolls. The light does not reach the corners of the room. The shadows there are deep and soft, like velvet. The stone floor is cool and smooth, reflecting nothing. The owner of this house is long since asleep, but a lone scribe remains, sitting on a simple wooden stool. He is not writing. His work is finished for the night. He is simply sitting in the stillness, letting his eyes rest. He is wrapped in a very fine, soft wool shawl, a pallium. It is light but incredibly warm, draped in long, heavy folds over his shoulders. Listen to the sound of the scribe's breath, in and out. It is the only sound in the library. The scrolls do not move. The cedarwood shelves do not creak. The room is a temple of boredom. The scribe's hand rests on the table near a small bronze inkwell. The ink is dry. The reed pen, the calamus, lies perfectly still beside it. The papyrus scrolls have a specific texture. If you were to touch one, it would feel slightly rough, like the skin of a dried fruit. They are made from the fibers of the Nile reeds, pressed and dried under the sun. Now in the Roman night, they hold the coolness of the room. They are stable. They are quiet. They are just waiting. You do not need to know what is written on those scrolls. It might be poetry about the stars, or long lists of grain taxes, or a philosopher's thoughts on the nature of peace. None of it matters right now. The words are locked away in the rolls, and the rolls are locked away in the night. The information is resting, and so are you. The scribe closes his eyes. He feels the weight of the wool shawl against his neck. It is a gentle, comforting weight. He is not thinking of the future. He is not thinking of the past. He is simply experiencing the sensation of being still in a room full of history. The thick stone walls of the house act as a barrier, keeping the sounds of the world away. Even the wind outside cannot penetrate this silence. High up on the wall, there is a small, square window. Through it, you can see a tiny patch of the night sky. The moon has moved past, leaving only a deep, dark blue. A single planet, perhaps Venus, shines with a steady, unblinking light. It is millions of miles away, indifferent to the Roman Empire, indifferent to the scribe, just existing in the vastness of space. Imagine the library as a box of silence. Everything inside is motionless. The dust motes have all settled on the floor. The air is perfectly clear and cool. It feels like the room is holding its breath, waiting for nothing in particular. This is the perfect place for your mind to let go. Like a scroll being slowly rolled up, your thoughts are closing, becoming smooth and compact. The scribe stands up very slowly. His movements are fluid, almost silent. He does not want to disturb the peace of the room. He walks to the lamp and gently blows it out. F. The tiny blue spark vanishes. The room is now completely dark. The scent of the extinguished wick, a faint, oily smoke, lingers for a moment before disappearing into the cool air. In the darkness, the library feels even larger and more peaceful. The scribe knows his way by touch. He feels the cool stone of the wall, the smooth wood of the door frame. He leaves the room, and the scrolls are left alone in the blackness. They do not need light to exist. They do not need to be read to be real. You are like those scrolls now. You are tucked away in your own quiet corner of the world. You are safe. You are still. The darkness is not a void. It is a soft, protective layer that wraps around you. There is nothing to see, nothing to hear, and nothing to do. The stone is old, the papyrus is dry, the wool is soft. Everything is at rest. Everything is silent. Everything is moving toward a deeper sleep. The darkness of the library remains behind us, and we move now through a heavy, draped curtain into the central atrium of a quiet Roman villa. The air here is open to the night, but it is sheltered by the high, protective walls of the home. There is no need to focus. There is no need to learn. My voice is just a slow, gentle pulse, like the rhythmic dripping of water in a distant basin. The night air in the courtyard is cool and carries the faint, clean scent of wet stone. In the center of the floor, the impluvium, the shallow pool, is a dark, still mirror. The water has settled completely. A single drop of dew falls from the edge of the roof tiles and hits the surface. Plink. The sound is sharp and clear, followed by a long, expanding circle of ripples that moves across the reflection of the stars. Then, the water becomes a mirror once again. In the shadows of the colonnade, a house slave, the eonator or doorkeeper, is resting. He is an older man, and his task tonight is simple: to sit by the heavy oak door and wait for the dawn. He is not standing guard against enemies. He is simply the keeper of the house's rhythm. He sits on a low, backless wooden stool. The wood is worn smooth by years of use, fitting the shape of his body perfectly. The doorkeeper is wrapped in a thick, heavy cloak of dark brown wool, a lacerna. It is a coarse, honest fabric. It has a rough texture that feels substantial against his skin. He has wrapped it tightly around his chest and tucked his hands into the opposite sleeves. He is like a stone statue, motionless and grounded. The weight of the wool is a constant, boring comfort that keeps the night chill at bay. Listen to the silence of the courtyard. It is a layering of many quiet things. The sound of the wind moving over the roof tiles, the soft, rhythmic breathing of the doorkeeper, the distant, almost imperceptible murmur of the city's plumbing, the lead pipes carrying water through the walls. It is a low-frequency hum that vibrates through the house, a constant reminder that the city is alive even while it sleeps. The doorkeeper looks up at the rectangle of sky above him. The moon has moved behind a high wall, leaving the courtyard in a soft, gray shadow. He is not bored, because boredom is a luxury of the quiet mind. He is simply existing. He watches a small beetle crawl slowly across the mosaic floor. The mosaic is made of thousands of tiny white and black stones, arranged in a simple geometric pattern. The beetle moves from one white stone to another, its tiny legs making no sound at all. You do not need to follow the beetle. You do not need to look at the patterns. You can let your mind be like the water in the pool, flat, dark, and still. The Roman Empire is not a place of action tonight. It is a place of heavy wool and cool marble. The doorkeeper's eyes are heavy. He is not asleep yet, but he is drifting in that soft space between waking and dreaming. He feels the cold of the mosaic floor through his thin leather sandals, so he pulls his feet up and rests them on the wooden rung of his stool. He pulls the wool cloak tighter. The fabric smells of wood smoke and the lavender that the laundry maids use to scent the clothes. It is a clean, sleepy smell. It fills his lungs and slows his heart. There is a small bronze key hanging from a leather cord around his neck. Occasionally, as he breathes, the key taps very lightly against a bronze button on his tunic. Tink, tink. It is a tiny, musical sound that punctuates the silence. It is the sound of security. The house is locked. The family is safe. The world is in its proper order. Imagine the thickness of the oak door behind him. It is reinforced with iron studs, cold to the touch. It is a barrier between the private world and the public street. Inside here, everything is predictable. The pillars are made of solid limestone. They have stood here for 3 generations and they will stand for 3 more. They do not change. They do not move. They are the definition of stability. The doorkeeper's chin sinks slowly toward his chest. His breathing becomes a long, slow hum, in and out. He is not thinking of his duties. He is not thinking of the morning. He is just a part of the house as much as the pillars or the pool. The night is a long, dark tunnel, and he is sitting comfortably in the middle of it. If you are still awake, imagine the feeling of the heavy wool cloak. It is not just a garment, it is a shield. It traps the warmth of your breath. It softens the world. As you wrap yourself in this thought, let your muscles go limp. Let the weight of the day settle into the floor, just like the doorkeeper's weight settles into his stool. The stars above the courtyard move in their slow, preordained paths. They have no hurry. The Roman world is governed by these cycles, the stars, the tides, the seasons. And tonight, the cycle is at its lowest point, the point of deepest rest. The pool is dark, the stone is silent, the wool is warm. There is nothing to see. There is nothing to hear. There is only the slow, boring pulse of the ancient night. Everything is settling, everything is still, everything is at peace. The doorkeeper in the courtyard has surrendered to a light sleep, his chin resting against the heavy wool of his cloak. We move now, sliding like a shadow through the quiet streets, until we reach a small workshop on the edge of the artisan district. This is the place of the potter. There is no fire here now, no spinning wheels, no noise, just the slow, boring cooling of the earth. The workshop is a long, low room with walls made of sun-dried mud bricks. The air inside is still and carries a very specific scent, the smell of damp clay, cool water, and the faint mineral tang of iron oxide used for slips and glazes. It is a heavy, grounded smell. It reminds the body of the earth itself. There is no need to focus on these words. Let them drift past you like the dust in the air. In the center of the room, several large storage jars known as dolia sit in rows. They are massive, rounded shapes made of thick, fired terracotta. During the day, they are bright and orange, but in the moonlight, they are a deep, silent crimson. They have been cooling since they were taken from the kiln yesterday. If you were to place your palm against one, it would still feel slightly warm, a gentle, fading heat that radiates into the cool night air. The potter's wheel, a heavy disc of stone on a wooden pivot, is motionless. It sits in a corner, its surface covered in a thin, dried layer of gray clay. The silence of the wheel is profound. It has spent the day spinning in dizzying circles, but now it has found its center. It is perfectly still. It is a monument to the end of labor. On a long wooden bench, a row of small oil lamps is drying. They are shaped like little boats waiting to be fired in the kiln. They are soft now, the clay still holding onto its moisture. They are identical, one after the other, a repetitive line of simple shapes. 1, 2, 3. There is nothing unique about them. They are boring, and in their sameness there is a deep, rhythmic peace. The potter is resting in a small room at the back of the shop. He is lying on a simple pallet of woven rushes. He is not a wealthy man, but he is comfortable. He is wrapped in a large, rectangular piece of felted wool. This fabric is dense and thick, designed to keep the dampness of the workshop from reaching his bones. The felt is heavy. It doesn't drape like linen. It sits like a shell. Listen to the silence of the drying clay. As the moisture slowly leaves the jars, the clay shrinks by a fraction of a millimeter. You cannot see it, and you can barely hear it, but there is a tiny, microscopic tink every now and then as the earth settles into its final shape. It is the sound of time passing without any hurry at all. Outside the workshop, the street is empty. A small wooden cart has been left near the door. One of its wheels is slightly crooked. The moonlight catches the iron rim of the wheel, creating a thin line of silver in the dark. The cart is not going anywhere. It is waiting for the morning, just as the potter is, just as the clay is. The potter's breathing is slow and shallow, in and out, in and out. He is a man who works with his hands, and tonight his hands are soft and still. They are tucked into the folds of his felt cloak. He is dreaming of nothing but the color of the earth. His mind is as empty as the jars he creates. Imagine the workshop as a place where the earth is returning to the earth. The clay came from the riverbank, was shaped by the hand, and is now sitting in the dark, becoming stone. You are like that clay. You are being shaped by the stillness of the night. You are settling. You are becoming solid and heavy. The temperature in the room is dropping very slowly. The mud brick walls are excellent insulators. They hold the silence in and keep the world out. The Roman night is a series of these small, quiet pockets: the barrack, the bakery, the library, the workshop. Each one is a sanctuary of boredom. If you are still awake, think about the texture of the terracotta. It is slightly rough, porous, and honest. It is the color of the sunset, even in the dark. It is a material that lasts for 1,000 years. It doesn't need to do anything to be important. It just needs to exist. You too can just exist. You don't need to think or plan or remember. The moonlight has moved across the floor, and it now touches the base of the potter's wheel. The stone is cold and gray. The shadows in the corners are growing longer and softer. The night is at its most stagnant point. Nothing is happening, and nothing needs to happen. The clay is cooling, the wheel is still, the wool is heavy. There is no sound, there is no light. There is only the slow, rhythmic cooling of the Roman world. Everything is heavy, everything is slow, everything is exactly as it should be. The potter's workshop fades into the dark, and we move now toward the outer walls of a small villa, where a kitchen garden, a hortus, lies in the moonlight. The air here is thin and cold, but it is rich with the scent of the sleeping earth. There is no need to focus on these words. Let them be like a soft, rhythmic hum that lulls you deeper into your pillow. The garden is a place of order and silence. Small stone paths divide the earth into neat rectangles. In each rectangle, herbs are growing: rosemary, thyme, mint, and sage. In the daytime, these plants are vibrant and full of life, but tonight they are silver-gray shadows. They are still. Their leaves are closed, holding onto the moisture of the night dew. Listen to the sound of the night wind as it moves through the rosemary bushes. It is a very soft, dry sound. S-H-H-H, S-H-H-H, S-H-H-H. The needle-like leaves of the rosemary rub against each other, releasing a faint, sharp aroma into the cold air. It is a clean smell, a smell that clears the mind of any remaining thoughts. In the center of the garden, there is a small stone sundial. In the day, it tracks the sun's progress with a sharp, moving shadow. But tonight, the moon is its master. The shadow it casts now is soft and blurred, a pale ghost of time that doesn't seem to move at all. The sundial is resting. It has nothing to tell the world. A small garden shed stands at the edge of the plot. Inside, the gardener's tools are leaning against the wooden wall. There is a bronze hoe, a wooden rake, and a pruning hook. They are cold to the touch, their surfaces covered in a fine layer of dust. They have done their work, and now they are part of the silence. The gardener, an old man who has lived by the cycles of the moon all his life, is sleeping in a small room nearby. He is not cold. He is wrapped in a heavy cloak of undyed, coarse wool, a palla. It is thick and smells of the sun and the soil. He has pulled the wool over his feet and tucked his hands into his chest. He is a part of the garden's rhythm, his breathing matching the slow sway of the trees. In and out, in and out. His breath is a tiny mist in the air. He is dreaming of the rain, but the dream is slow and has no beginning or end. It is just a sensation of coolness and growth. You can feel that same sensation now. Your body is like a plant in the winter, dormant, still, and safe. Think about the roots of the herbs. Deep in the dark, cool soil, they are holding onto the earth. They do not need to move. They do not need to seek the light. They are just existing in the dark, waiting for the natural turn of the world. You are also held by the weight of your own rest. You are grounded. Outside the garden wall, a single owl flies silently across the sky. You cannot hear its wings, for they are designed for silence. It is a soft, white shape that disappears into the shadows of a cypress tree. The tree is a tall, dark spear pointing at the stars. It does not move. The owl does not hoot. The silence is absolute. The Roman night is a time of deep mineral peace. The stones of the wall are cold. The water in the well is still. The wool of the gardener's cloak is heavy. There is no drama here. There is no history being made. There is only the slow, boring growth of the herbs and the steady movement of the stars. Imagine the dew settling on a mint leaf. A single drop of water, heavy and clear, forms at the tip. It grows larger and larger, very slowly, until it is a perfect sphere. Then it slides off and falls onto the soft earth below. Thup! A sound so quiet it is almost a feeling. The garden is a fortress of boredom. Every plant is in its place. Every stone is where it was yesterday. The world is stable. The world is predictable. You can let go of the need to be alert. The garden is watching over itself. The gardener is sleeping. The herbs are breathing. If you are still awake, feel the cool air on your forehead and the warmth of your covers around your body. This is the Roman way, the contrast of the cold night and the heavy wool. It is a balance that leads to the deepest sleep. The rosemary is still, the sundial is silent, the wool is warm. Everything is settling into the earth. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. The garden of herbs fades into the cool mist, and we move softly back toward the interior of a modest Roman home, into the room of the weaver. It is a small space, filled with the presence of unfinished work and the heavy, comforting scent of raw wool. There is no need to pay attention. My voice is just the slow creaking of a wooden floor in a house that has been standing for 100 years. The room is dim. The only light comes from a tiny window high up in the stone wall, casting a pale, silver beam across the upright loom. The loom is a massive wooden frame, made of dark, sturdy oak. It leans against the wall like a silent giant. Long threads of wool hang from the top beam, weighted down by small clay pyramids called loom weights. Listen to the silence of the loom. Occasionally, a slight draft moves through the room and the clay weights tap ever so slightly against one another. Clink, clink. It is a thin, hollow sound that only emphasizes the stillness of the air. The threads of wool are thick and uncolored, holding the natural cream white of the sheep. They are fuzzy and soft, catching the moonlight in their tiny fibers. The weaver is asleep in the corner on a simple bed of wooden slats and leather straps. She is not cold. She is wrapped in a piece of the very fabric she was weaving earlier in the day, a thick, heavy blanket of boiled wool. This wool has been beaten and pressed until it is dense and windproof. It is a solid weight upon her, pressing her down into the mattress of straw. The straw beneath her makes a soft, dry rustle as she breathes. CRSHHH, CRSHHH. It is the sound of harvest, of sun-dried fields, now tucked away in a quiet room. The mattress is thick, lifting her away from the cold of the stone floor. She is a small island of warmth in a sea of cool limestone. Think about the repetitive motion of the weaving, the shuttle moving back and forth, slide, tuck, beat, slide, tuck, beat. The day was filled with this rhythm, and now the night has inherited that same steady pace. There is no rush to finish the cloth. The loom will be there tomorrow. The wool will not change. The night is a pause in a very long, very slow story. On a small wooden table next to the bed sits a bowl of water and a piece of dry bread. The water is perfectly still. The bread is hard and simple. These are the objects of a boring, stable life. They do not demand anything. They are content to exist in the dark. The weaver's hands, which are usually busy with the threads, are now tucked under her chin. They are resting. Her mind is not thinking of patterns or colors. It is as empty as the space between the threads on the loom. She is dreaming of the sound of the wind in the mountains where the wool came from, but the dream is slow and faint, like a memory of a memory. You can feel that same emptiness in your own mind. Like a piece of cloth being slowly woven, your thoughts are becoming a single, solid texture. There are no loose threads. Everything is being tucked in. Everything is becoming heavy and warm. Outside the room, the rest of the house is equally silent. The Roman Empire is a collection of millions of such rooms, each one filled with the scent of wool and the sound of slow breathing. It is a vast, quiet machine of rest. The emperors may have their palaces and their marble, but tonight they too are wrapped in wool, listening to the same silence. The clay weights on the loom stay perfectly still now. The draft has passed. The moonlight has moved away from the threads and is now illuminating a small patch of the stone floor. The stone is gray and speckled with tiny bits of mica that glint like distant stars. The night is a long, slow process of cooling and settling. Like the wool being pressed into felt, the day is being compressed into a single, quiet moment. You are at the very center of that moment. You are safe. You are warm. You are bored. The loom is waiting. The wool is heavy. The weaver is dreaming. There is no sound but the air. There is no light but the moon. There is only the slow, rhythmic weaving of sleep. Everything is stable. Everything is slow. Everything is exactly as it should be. We drift away from the weaver's loom and out into a long stone corridor that connects the rooms of this quiet Roman home. The air here is cooler than in the sleeping quarters, a refreshing, still cold that smells of the cedarwood chests used to store the family's clothes. There is no reason to be alert. My voice is just a soft shadow moving along the walls, guiding you deeper into the ancient night. The corridor is narrow, and the walls are plastered with a smooth, off-white lime wash. In the dark, the walls look like soft, gray clouds. There are no paintings here, no distractions. Just the rhythmic spacing of the wooden doors, each one heavy and shut tight. The floor is made of large, flat terracotta tiles. They are cool to the touch and hold the silence of the foundation. At the end of the corridor, a large cedarwood chest, a capsa, sits against the wall. It is reinforced with bronze bands that have turned a dull, dark green over the years. Inside the chest, the family's winter tunics and heavy cloaks are folded neatly. The scent of the cedar is thick and woody, a natural repellent for insects and a perfume for the wool. It is a dry, clean smell that has seeped into the very stones of the house. Listen to the stillness of this hallway. It is a profound architectural silence. Because the walls are so thick, the sounds of the outside world, the distant sea, the rustling trees, the night watchmen are completely blocked out. The only thing you can hear is the very faint, rhythmic creak of the house itself as the timber beams in the roof contract in the cool night air. It is a slow, predictable sound, like the house is settling into its own bed. You do not need to walk down this corridor. You can simply exist in the space between the doors. This is a place of transition, a place where nothing happens. It is the most boring part of the house and therefore the most peaceful. There is no furniture to look at, no work to be done. just the gray walls and the scent of the cedar. Imagine the weight of the wool stored inside that chest. Dozens of pounds of heavy, woven fabric pressed together in the dark. It is a reservoir of warmth waiting for the morning. But for now, it is just mass, heavy, silent, and still. You can feel that same sense of mass in your own limbs. Your arms feel heavy like the folded cloaks. Your legs feel solid like the terracotta tiles. High above, near the ceiling, a small lizard, a common gecko, rests on the plaster. It is perfectly motionless, its tiny feet gripped to the wall. It is not hunting, it is waiting. It is part of the corridor's stillness. Its eyes are dark and quiet. It has no hurry. It understands the Roman night better than any human. It knows that the night is for waiting. The Roman night is not a time for progress. It is a time for preservation. The cedar preserves the wool. The walls preserve the heat. The silence preserves the mind. Everything is being kept exactly as it is. There is a great comfort in that lack of change. You don't have to worry about tomorrow, because in this corridor, tomorrow is just a repeat of today. Think about the darkness at the far end of the hallway. It is a soft, inviting darkness. It isn't a place of mystery, but a place of rest. It is where the shadows go to be still. If you were to walk toward it, you would move slower and slower, until your movement stopped altogether and you became part of the shadows yourself. The scent of the cedar drifts through the air, hitting the back of your throat with a cool, dry sensation. It is a grounding smell. It reminds the body of the earth and the trees. It invites you to breathe deeper, slower, in and out, in and out. Your breath is the only clock in this hallway, and it is a very slow clock. Outside, the moon has reached its zenith. A sliver of silver light reaches through a ventilation slit and touches the bronze band on the cedar chest. For a moment, a single spark of light lives in the corridor. Then, as the moon moves, the spark fades and disappears. The darkness returns, even more complete than before. The doors remain closed. The cedar remains fragrant. The stone remains cool. There is no path to follow. There is no task to complete. There is only the slow, boring passage of the night in a house of stone. Everything is preserved. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We leave the quiet corridor and move toward the back of the house, entering the kitchen, the culina. This is usually the busiest room in a Roman home, but at this hour, it is the most silent. The fire has been out for many hours, and the air is cool and still. There is no need to pay attention. Let my voice be like the slow settling of ash in a cold grate. The kitchen is a small, functional room with soot-stained walls. In the center is a masonry hearth, a raised brick platform where the cooking is done. Earlier, it was full of the smell of onions, lentils, and roasting meat. Now it smells of cold charcoal and damp stone. The embers are buried under a thick layer of gray ash, keeping a tiny, invisible spark alive for the morning. Listen to the absolute stillness of the kitchen tools. A large bronze pot, a patera, sits on a wooden shelf. It is heavy and dark. Next to it are several ceramic bowls stacked neatly. They are made of common red clay, unglazed and honest. They do not move. They do not glint. They simply occupy their space in the dark. On the floor in the corner sits a large amphora filled with olive oil. The oil is thick and heavy. Because the night is cold, the oil has become slightly viscous, moving slower than water. It is a golden, silent liquid resting in its clay shell. Nearby, a basket of dried figs sits on a stool. The figs are wrinkled and dark, smelling faintly of sugar and the sun. The kitchen slave is sleeping in a tiny alcove just off the main room. He is wrapped in a very old, very thick cloak of felted wool. It has been patched many times, but the layers of wool are dense and trap his body heat perfectly. He is curled on his side, his breathing a low, rhythmic sound that echoes slightly against the brick hearth. In and out, in and out. There is no clock in the kitchen, but the dripping of a small leak in the water pipe marks the time. Drip, pause, drip, pause. Each drop falls into a ceramic basin with a soft, hollow thud. It is a boring sound. It is a sound that tells you nothing is changing. The water is cool. The stone is cold. The night is long. You can imagine the texture of the stone floor under your feet. It is not perfectly smooth. It has the grain of the earth. It is solid and unchanging. Like the Roman Empire itself, this room is built to last. The bricks of the hearth have seen 1,000 meals, and they will see 1,000 more. They are not in a hurry. Think about the weight of the bronze pot. It is heavy, solid, and cold. If you were to touch it, it would pull the heat from your fingers, but you are not touching it. You are wrapped in your own thoughts of wool and warmth. You are observing the cold from a place of safety. The kitchen is a room of shadows. The shapes of the amphory, the stools, and the hanging herbs look like dark giants in the dim light. A bunch of dried oregano hangs from a ceiling beam. It is perfectly still, but it fills the air with a very faint, dusty herbal scent. It is the smell of a world that has been harvested and stored. Outside, a light wind brushes against the kitchen door, which is barred with a heavy piece of oak. The wood groans slightly, a deep, low sound, and then falls silent again. The house is a fortress. The cold cannot get in, and the peace cannot get out. The kitchen slave does not dream of grand things. He dreams of the warmth of the fire he will light in the morning. He dreams of the smell of the first loaf of bread. But that is hours away. For now, he is just a body in a wool cloak, resting his tired limbs. You can do the same. You can let your tired limbs sink into the stillness. The ash is gray, the stone is cold, the wool is heavy. There is no work to be done. There is no fire to tend. There is only the slow, cold heart of the Roman house. Everything is resting. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We move now from the cooling kitchen, descending a few stone steps into the deepest part of the house, the cellar or cella. Here, the air is even stiller, heavy and thick with the smell of the deep earth and the sweet, fermented scent of wine aging in clay. There is no need to focus. My voice is just a low, constant hum, like the silence of the soil itself. The cellar is a space of perfect, unchanging temperature. The walls are made of rough-cut volcanic tuff, which feels damp and cool to the touch. Because it is underground, the temperature never wavers, regardless of the winds outside or the sun of the afternoon. It is a place where time stands still. There are no windows here, only a heavy wooden hatch that has been bolted shut for the night. In the dimness, you can see rows of tall, slender amphory. They are pointed at the bottom and are buried halfway into a bed of soft, clean sand to keep them upright and cool. These jars contain the wine of the last harvest, dark, heavy, and silent. They are sealed with clay stoppers and a thick layer of pine resin. The resin smells faintly of the forest, a sharp, clean scent that cuts through the musty dampness of the underground. Listen to the silence of the cellar. It is a heavy silence, amplified by the weight of the house above it. There is no wind here. There is no movement. The only sound is the very faint, rhythmic tink, tink, of a single drop of condensation sliding down the side of a clay jar and landing in the sand. It is a soft, muffled sound that is swallowed instantly by the earth. The cellar is a place of storage, a place of waiting. Just as the wine is slowly maturing in the dark, your body is slowly settling into its rest. You do not need to move. You do not need to think. Like the amphory in the sand, you are grounded and stable. The weight of the world above you is not a burden. It is a protective layer, shielding you from any disturbance. A small wooden ladder leans against the wall, its rungs worn and dusty. On a shelf above the wine jars, there are several round wheels of cheese, wrapped in linen and coated in salt. The salt creates a dry, mineral scent that mixes with the aroma of the wine and the clay. These cheeses have been sitting here for months, slowly hardening, slowly becoming what they are meant to be. There is no rush. The Roman night is a time for things to become. The wine becomes wine, the cheese becomes cheese, and you become sleep. Imagine the darkness of this room. It is a solid, velvet black. Even if you opened your eyes, you would see nothing but the softest outlines of the jars. This darkness is a comfort. It is a boundary. It tells the mind that the day is over and that there is nothing left to see. A small beetle moves slowly across the surface of the sand. Its movements are tiny and deliberate. It stops near the base of a jar, its shell glinting for a brief moment in the phantom light of your memory. Then, it too becomes still. The cellar is a kingdom of the motionless. The owner of the house is sleeping 2 floors above, but his wealth, his wine, his grain, his oil, is down here, safe in the dark. The stability of the Roman Empire is not found in the palaces, but in these quiet, boring cellars where the resources of life are kept. It is a world of substance. It is a world of heavy clay and cold stone. If you are still awake, feel the coolness of the cellar air in your imagination. It is a refreshing, steady cold. But in your own space, you are warm. You are like the wine inside the jar, enclosed, protected, and still. The clay is your blanket. The sand is your bed. The walls are thick. The wine is still. The earth is heavy. There is no light to wait for. There is no sound to hear. There is only the slow, dark heartbeat of the soil. Everything is grounded. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We emerge from the deep, cool cellar and move toward a small workshop in the residential quarter, belonging to a maker of mosaics, a musivarius. The air here is dry and smells of crushed limestone and mineral pigments. There is no need to pay attention to these words. Let them be like the slow, rhythmic falling of dust motes in a shaft of moonlight. The workshop is a long, rectangular room. On several heavy wooden benches, frames are laid out, partially filled with tiny cubes of stone tesserae. These cubes are made of marble, glass, and terracotta. In the daytime, they are a riot of color, deep blues, vibrant reds, and earthy yellows. But now, in the stillness of the Roman night, they are all shades of gray and silver. Listen to the silence of the stones. Thousands of tiny, hand-cut cubes sit in wooden trays organized by color and size. They have been gathered from all over the empire. Some are from the white quarries of Carrara, others from the black volcanic fields of Sicily. Now they are resting together in the dark. They do not move. They do not clatter. They are simply waiting to be placed into a pattern that will last for centuries. In the center of the room, a large mosaic is being created on the floor. It is a simple geometric design, a series of interlocking circles and squares. The artist has already laid down the bed of lime mortar. The mortar is still damp, and it gives off a faint, clean, alkaline scent. It is a slow-drying bed, holding the stones in a cold, firm grip. The mosaicist is sleeping in the back of the shop on a narrow bed. He is wrapped in a thick, undyed wool cloak. The wool is heavy and coarse, the kind used by laborers. It is a solid, grounding weight. He is a man who spends his days looking at small details, and now his eyes are closed, resting from the strain of the colors. His breathing is steady and deep, in and out, in and out. There is a small ceramic jar of water on his workbench. The water is perfectly still, a dark circle of liquid. A single piece of white marble tessera lies next to it, forgotten during the evening's work. It is a perfect cube, its edges sharp and clean. It is a small piece of the earth, resting on a piece of a tree, inside a house of stone. You do not need to see the pattern. You do not need to understand the art. The Roman night is a time when even the most complex designs become simple. In the dark, there are no colors, only shapes. In the dark, there is no labor, only existence. Like the tiny stones in the tray, you are part of a larger whole, but for now, your only job is to be still. The temperature in the workshop is low. The stone walls and the damp mortar keep the air crisp. The mosaicist pulls his wool cloak tighter, his movements slow and subconscious. He is tucked into his own warmth, just as the stones are tucked into the mortar. Think about the longevity of the stone. These tiny cubes will be here long after the house has fallen. They will be here long after the Roman Empire has become a memory. They are patient. They are boring. They are the very definition of stability. You can lean into that stability. You can let your thoughts become as heavy and still as the marble. Outside the window, the moon is beginning its descent. The light is changing, the shadows in the workshop shifting by a few millimeters. A tray of blue glass tesserae catches a faint glint of light, then fades back into the dark. It is a slow, silent transition. There is no hurry. The mortar is setting, the stones are still, the wool is heavy. There is no beauty to create. There is no plan to follow. There is only the slow, mineral peace of the craftsman's night. Everything is solid, everything is slow, everything is at peace. The stones of the mosaic workshop remain in their silent patterns as we move toward the center of the city, into the inner courtyard of a scribe's house. The air here is open to the night sky, and it carries the faint, dry scent of papyrus and the cool, mineral aroma of ink that has settled in its well. There is no need to focus on these words. Let them be a soft, steady rhythm, like the slow passing of clouds across the Roman moon. The courtyard is surrounded by a covered walkway with simple, unadorned columns of limestone. The stone is cold and smooth, having released all the heat of the day hours ago. In the center of the floor, the impluvium is filled with dark, still water. The surface is so calm that it looks like a sheet of black glass, reflecting the stars that move with infinite slowness above the opening in the roof. On a small wooden table under the shadow of the colonnade, the scribe's tools are laid out in perfect order. There is a bundle of reed pens, the calami, tied together with a thin leather cord. There is a flat piece of pumice stone used for smoothing the papyrus and a small bronze inkwell. The ink inside, a mixture of soot, gum arabic, and water, is still and dark. A thin, dry crust has begun to form on its surface, sealing the liquid away from the night air. Listen to the silence of the courtyard. It is a deep, layered stillness. You can hear the faint, dry rustle of a single papyrus scroll that has been left on the table. A light breeze, no more than a breath, moves over it, and the fibers of the reed paper make a sound like a distant sigh. SSS. Then the air becomes still again, and the scroll is once more a silent cylinder of history. The scribe is sleeping in a small room nearby. He is wrapped in a large, rectangular shawl of fine, dark wool. This wool is thinner than a soldier's cloak, but woven so tightly that it holds the heat of his body in a gentle embrace. He is a man of letters and quiet thoughts, and his breathing reflects his calm nature. In and out, in and out. It is a slow, methodical rhythm like the strokes of his pen. The Roman night is a time for the ink to dry and the words to rest. During the day, this courtyard is a place of activity. The scratch of the pen, the unrolling of scrolls, the discussions of law and poetry. But now all the stories are closed. The ink is cooling. The stone is silent. There is no need for communication. There is only the presence of the night. Imagine the texture of the papyrus. It is made of many thin layers of river reeds pressed together until they become one. It is a material that is both fragile and strong. In the dark, it feels cool and slightly dusty. You are like that papyrus, layered and still, holding the quiet of the night within you. The temperature in the courtyard is dropping very slowly. The limestone columns are like cold anchors, holding the house steady against the turning of the earth. The scribe pulls his wool shawl closer to his neck. The wool smells faintly of the cedar chest where it is kept during the day. It is a woody, clean scent that reminds him of stability and order. Think about the ink in the well. It is a liquid made of shadows. It has no shape of its own until it is placed on the page. But tonight, it remains in its bronze home, a dark, silent pool. You don't need to write your own story tonight. You can leave the pages blank. You can let the ink stay still. Outside the house, the city of Rome is a vast, dark forest of stone. Thousands of houses, thousands of courtyards, all holding this same silence. The collective weight of all this resting wool and cooling stone creates a heavy, peaceful atmosphere that blankets the entire world. You are tucked into this blanket. You are part of this massive, boring peace. The moon has moved behind a high roof line, and the light in the courtyard has shifted from silver to a deep, velvet blue. The water in the pool is now invisible, its presence known only by the coolness it adds to the air. The stars continue their slow, silent march. The ink is dry, the reeds are still, the wool is warm. There are no words to read. There are no thoughts to follow. There is only the slow, rhythmic cooling of the scribe's house. Everything is stable, everything is slow, everything is at peace. We move away from the scribe's courtyard and travel toward a small, quiet street where the scent of unwashed fleece hangs in the cool air. We are entering the loft of a wool comber, a lanarius. This is a humble place, a room of wood and soft fibers. There is no need to focus on these words. Let them be a slow, rhythmic brushing sensation, like the steady combing of wool in a silent room. The loft is a long space under the eaves of a timber-framed building. The ceiling is low, with heavy oak beams that smell of old sap and dust. In the center of the room, there are large baskets piled high with raw wool. This is the wool before it is spun, before it is dyed. It is a mass of soft, tangled clouds, holding the warmth of the sheep and the natural oils of the earth. Listen to the silence of the wool. It is a soft, absorbent silence. In a room full of stone, sounds bounce and echo, but here, the wool swallows every noise. Even the sound of your own breathing feels muffled and far away. The room is a sanctuary of softness. The air is still, and the only movement is the slow, almost invisible settling of tiny wool fibers in the moonlight. The wool comber is sleeping on a mattress made of the very fleece he works with. He is not just covered by wool, he is surrounded by it. He is wrapped in a thick, undyed tunic of heavy frieze, a rough, durable fabric that is nearly windproof. He is tucked into a corner where the roof meets the floor, a small, warm nest in a cool, dark city. His breathing is a soft, muffled rhythm, in and out, in and out. There is no work being done tonight. The iron combs, the pectines, are resting on a wooden bench. Their long, sharp teeth are cold and silent. During the day, they pull and tear through the fibers, creating a rhythmic swish-scratch sound. But now they are just metal in the dark. The wool is not being pulled. It is not being stretched. It is just resting in its natural, tangled state. The Roman night is a time for the fibers of life to loosen. During the day, everything is pulled tight, the strings of the lyre, the reins of the horse, the nerves of the people. But now, in the dark, the tension is gone. The world is like this raw wool, unstructured, soft, and heavy. You can let your own mind become like a basket of fleece. There is no shape to hold. There is no direction to go. You are just a soft, warm presence in the dark. Imagine the texture of the raw wool. It is not perfectly smooth like silk. It has a slight tackiness from the lanolin, the sheep's natural wax. This wax is what keeps the wool warm even when it is damp. It is the secret to why the Roman soldiers and citizens can sleep in the cold. Their clothes are not just fabric, they are a living protection. You can feel that protection now. You are encased in a layer of boring, steady warmth. The temperature in the loft is low, but the heat remains trapped in the baskets of wool. The timber beams above are cold to the touch, but they are solid and reliable. The house is old. It has seen hundreds of winters and thousands of nights. It does not shake in the wind. It does not creak with every footstep. It is a stable, boring structure that allows you to feel completely safe. A single window, no more than a slit in the wood, looks out over the rooftops of Rome. You can see the dark shapes of chimneys and the pale curves of roof tiles. There is no smoke rising, for all the fires have been put out. The city is a landscape of cold stone and warm wool. Everyone is tucked away. Everyone is participating in the same silent ritual of rest. Think about the weight of the wool comber's tunic. It is heavy on his chest, a comforting pressure that reminds him he is grounded. This pressure is a signal to the body that it is time to be still. Like the comber, you can let your weight sink into your bed. You can let the gravity of the Roman night hold you down. The combs are cold, the wool is soft, the loft is silent. There is no thread to spin. There is no cloth to weave. There is only the slow, muffled heartbeat of the fleece. Everything is untangled. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We move away from the soft, muffled silence of the wool comber's loft and descend back into the narrow streets, drifting toward the quarter of the Ungentarii, the makers of perfumes and oils. The air here is thin and crisp, but as we approach a small, stone-fronted shop, it carries a deep, complex aroma of resins, dried flowers, and heavy oils. There is no need to pay attention. Let my voice be like the slow, invisible evaporation of scent into the midnight air. The shop is a small, rectangular room with thick walls made of brick and mortar. The front is closed with heavy wooden shutters, bolted from the inside with an iron bar. Inside, the darkness is absolute, but the room is filled with the presence of 1,000 sleeping scents. On the shelves, rows of small glass vials and ceramic jars, called alabastra, sit in perfect, boring rows. Listen to the silence of the oils. In the corner, a large stone mortar and pestle sit on a low table. They are made of dark, heavy granite. During the day, they are used to crush frankincense, myrrh, and dried rose petals, creating a rhythmic grind. Thud, grind, thud. But now the stone is cold. The pestle lies at an angle, its heavy weight resting against the side of the bowl. There is no movement. The dust of the crushed herbs has settled to the bottom. The perfumer is sleeping in a small alcove behind a linen curtain. He is wrapped in a large, rectangular cloak of boiled wool. This wool is dense and heavy, providing a solid barrier against the cool air of the shop. Because he works with oils all day, his cloak carries a faint, lingering scent of spikenard and cedar. It is a grounding, earthy smell that acts as a natural sedative. His breathing is slow and shallow, matching the stillness of the jars on his shelves. In and out, in and out. The Roman night in this shop is a time of infusion. In a large ceramic vat, petals of jasmine are steeping in cold-pressed olive oil. There is no heat, no boiling. It is a slow, boring process where the oil gradually takes on the essence of the flower. It takes days, weeks, months. The Roman world understands the value of waiting. You can feel that same patient energy in your own body. There is no hurry to reach the morning. There is no task to complete. You are simply steeping in the stillness of the night. Think about the glass vials. They are small and delicate, blown by hand in the fires of the city's outskirts. In the dark, they don't glint. They are just cool, smooth shapes. They hold liquids that were gathered from the far corners of the empire, balsam from Judea, cinnamon from the east, roses from the fields of Paestum. All of these distant places are represented here, silent and still in a small room in Rome. The temperature in the shop is stable. The thick brick walls act as a thermal mass, holding onto a tiny bit of the day's warmth while keeping the sharp cold of the street away. This balance is what allows the perfumer to sleep deeply without a fire. He is encased in his wool, protected by his walls, and surrounded by the scent of the earth. Imagine the scent of the frankincense. It is a resin, a tear of a tree that has hardened into a stone. It is ancient and unchanging. If you were to hold it, it would be cold and hard, but when it is still, it gives off a faint, pine-like aroma that slows the heart rate. You are like that resin, solid, calm, and holding a quiet essence within you. Outside the shutters, the street is a canyon of shadows. A light dew is forming on the stone threshold of the shop, making the bricks look dark and damp. But inside, everything is dry. Everything is organized. The rows of jars are like a silent army of rest. There is no chaos here. There is only the predictable, boring order of the artisan's life. The pestle remains still. The oil remains quiet. The wool remains heavy. There is no fragrance to blend. There is no customer to serve. There is only the slow, aromatic pulse of the cooling shop. Everything is in fusion. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We leave the aromatic stillness of the perfumer's shop and drift toward the outskirts of the city, where the workshops are larger and the air smells of the forest. We are entering the yard of a cooper, a cuparius, a maker of barrels. There is no need to focus on these words. Let them be a slow, heavy rhythm, like the steady, silent expansion of wood in the damp night air. The yard is an open space surrounded by a high stone wall. In the center, stacks of oak and chestnut staves are piled in neat, boring rows. These are the long, curved pieces of wood that will eventually become barrels. They have been seasoned by the sun and the rain for many months. Now, in the deep Roman night, they are cold and silvered by the moonlight. Listen to the silence of the wood. Oak is a dense, heavy material. It doesn't move easily. It doesn't creak like pine. It holds the silence of the forest within its grain. Occasionally, a small drop of dew slides down the curve of a stave and falls onto the wood shavings that cover the ground. Tup. It is a muffled, earthy sound. The wood shavings are thick on the floor, forming a soft, aromatic carpet that dampens the sound of the world. The cooper is sleeping in a small timber hut at the edge of the yard. He is a man of great physical strength, but tonight, his muscles are completely relaxed. He is lying on a thick mat of woven reeds, wrapped in a massive, circular cloak of dark, heavy wool, a pinula. This cloak is like a portable tent. It is thick enough to repel a light rain and heavy enough to press the body into a state of deep, motionless rest. The Roman night in this yard is a time of settling. During the day, the air is filled with the rhythmic clack, thud, clack of the mallet hitting the wood, but now the tools are resting. The heavy iron hoops that hold the barrels together are hanging from wooden pegs. They are cold to the touch. The iron is dark and silent. It has no tension tonight. You do not need to build anything. You do not need to hold anything together. Like the staves in the pile, you can just lean against the night. The weight of the oak is the weight of time. It is a slow, boring material that doesn't hurry to become anything. It is content to be wood. You can be content to be still. Your mind can be like the grain of the oak, deep, dark, and quiet. Imagine the scent of the yard. It is a mix of dry tannin, old sap, and the damp earth. It is a grounding smell. It reminds the body that it is part of the physical world, a world of solid things. The Roman Empire is built on this solidity, on barrels of wine, barrels of grain, and the heavy, reliable wool that protects the men who move them. The temperature is dropping as the moon moves toward the horizon. The dew is turning into a fine, invisible frost on the iron hoops. The air is crisp and clean. The cooper pulls the hood of his wool cloak over his head. The wool is scratchy but incredibly warm, trapping his breath and creating a small, private climate of heat. He is a small, warm stone in a large, cold yard. Think about the structure of a barrel. It is held together by pressure and fit, but tonight there is no pressure. The staves are just leaning. The hoops are just hanging. Everything is loose. Everything is at rest. You can let the pressure out of your own shoulders. You can let the hoops of your thoughts fall away. You don't need to hold anything together right now. The city of Rome is far enough away that the sounds of the fountains are just a memory. Here, there is only the sound of the wind moving through the stacks of wood. It is a low, hollow whistle. Woo-whoa. It is a sound that has no meaning, no message. It is just the air moving over the oak. The mallets are still. The oak is cold. The wool is heavy. There is no vessel to shape. There is no iron to bend. There is only the slow, wooden heartbeat of the cooper's night. Everything is unfastened. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We leave the wooden yard of the cooper and move back toward the edge of the city, where the buildings are tall and the air is filled with the scent of white dust. We are entering the yard of a stonecutter, a lapidarius. There is no need to focus on these words. Let them be like the slow, steady weight of a mountain resting in the dark. The yard is a vast, open space filled with massive blocks of marble and limestone. These stones have been hauled from the quarries of Carrara and the hills of Tivoli. In the moonlight, they look like giant, pale ghosts, square and silent. They are the bones of the Roman Empire, waiting to be carved into columns, statues, or walls. Listen to the silence of the stone. Marble is a cold, dense material that swallows the night's chill. It does not vibrate. It does not move. It holds a profound, mineral stillness that makes the air around it feel heavier. Occasionally, the night wind brushes over the rough surfaces of the unpolished blocks, making a soft, dry hissing sound, as if the stones themselves are breathing in their sleep. On a long wooden bench, the stonecutter's tools are laid out. There are heavy iron mallets and rows of sharp steel chisels, the scalpra. They are covered in a fine white layer of marble dust. During the day, this yard is a place of constant, ringing noise, ping, 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 as metal hits stone. But now the metal is cold. The mallets are heavy and motionless. The dust has settled, coating everything in a soft, gray blanket. The stonecutter is sleeping in a small, sturdy hut made of the very limestone he carves. He is a man of great patience, and his sleep is as deep as the earth. He is wrapped in a cloak of thick, dark wool that is impregnated with the dust of his trade. The wool is heavy and stiff, acting like a shell around his body. He is lying on a raised stone platform covered in a layer of dry straw. He does not feel the cold of the stone, for his wool is a perfect insulator. His breathing is slow and rhythmic, in and out, in and out. The Roman night in this yard is a time of absolute permanence. Unlike the wood that might warp or the grain that might rot, the stone stays exactly as it is. There is a great, boring comfort in this lack of change. You can feel that same permanence in your own rest. You don't need to change. You don't need to grow. You can just be as solid and as still as a block of marble. Think about the texture of the marble. It is smooth in some places, rough and jagged in others. In the dark, it feels like the surface of another planet. It is cool to the touch, pulling any heat away with a slow, steady hunger. But you are protected by your own layers of wool and warmth. You are the observer of the cold, not its subject. The temperature in the yard is crisp. A thin layer of frost is beginning to form on the edges of the iron chisels. The air is perfectly clear. You can see the stars reflected in the small puddles of water used to cool the saws during the day. The water is still. The stars are still. The world is a study in silver and gray. Imagine the weight of a single block of stone. 10,000 pounds of ancient earth sitting perfectly still. It has no desire to move. It has no worries. It is completely content in its own mass. You can let your body feel that same heavy contentment. Let your muscles become like the stone, relaxed, dense, and motionless. The mallets are resting, the marble is cold, the wool is heavy. There is no pillar to carve. There is no monument to build. There is only the slow, mineral heartbeat of the stonecutter's night. Everything is solid, everything is slow, everything is at peace. We leave the heavy, mineral silence of the stonecutter's yard and move back toward the city's heart, into the quiet district of the Fullers, the Fullones. This is a place of water and fabric. During the day, it is a place of rhythmic treading and cleaning, but now, the great vats are still. There is no need to pay attention to these words. Let them be like the slow, rhythmic dripping of water from a wet cloth into a stone basin. The Fullery is a large, open-air workshop with high walls and deep stone troughs. The air here is damp and cool, carrying the clean, sharp scent of alkaline salts and the heavy, earthy smell of wet wool. It is a functional, boring smell. There is no perfume here, only the honest aroma of industry at rest. Listen to the sound of the moisture. In the center of the yard, long lines of wooden racks, the vimina, stand tall. Draped over them are massive pieces of newly cleaned wool cloth. The fabric is thick and heavy with water. Occasionally, a single drop of water gathered at the hem of a cloak falls to the stone floor. Plash. It is a heavy, wet sound that echoes softly in the empty yard. The cloth is not moving. The weight of the water keeps it pinned to the wooden frames. The fuller is sleeping in a small room on the upper floor of the workshop. He is a man who works with his feet and his hands, and tonight his limbs are heavy with a healthy fatigue. He is wrapped in a large, circular cloak of thick, felted wool. Because the Fullery is a damp place, his cloak is made of the densest material possible to keep the humidity away from his skin. The wool is a solid, warm barrier. His breathing is a slow, damp rhythm, in and out, in and out. The Roman night in this workshop is a time of slow evaporation. The water is leaving the cloth, one molecule at a time. There is no wind to help it, only the natural movement of the cool night air. It is a process that cannot be rushed. It is a process of becoming lighter and drier. You can feel a similar process in your own mind. The weight of the day's thoughts is slowly evaporating, leaving you lighter, calmer, and ready for deep rest. On a low stone bench, several large ceramic jars of fuller's earth sit in the dark. The earth is a fine gray powder, used to pull the oils from the wool. Now the powder is still. The brushes and the sulfur frames used for whitening the cloth are leaning against the wall. They are cold to the touch. The sulfur has long since stopped burning, leaving only a very faint, clean tang in the air that helps to clear the senses. Think about the texture of the wet wool. It is dense, dark, and heavy. It has a gravity that pulls at the wooden racks, but as it dries, it becomes soft, fluffy, and light. You are in the middle of that transition. You are letting go of the heavy dampness of the day. You are becoming soft and quiet. Like the cloth on the rack, you don't need to do anything but hang there in the dark. The temperature in the Fullery is lower than in the houses, as the stone troughs hold the cold of the water. A thin mist is rising from the largest vat, a ghostly white veil that hangs just above the surface. The moonlight touches the mist, making it glow with a soft, ethereal light. It is a beautiful, boring sight. Imagine the strength of the wooden racks. They are made of solid pine, braced to hold the immense weight of the wet fabric. They are steady. They do not creak. They are reliable anchors in the night. You can feel that same reliability in the bed beneath you. It is holding you. It is supporting you. You are safe to let go. The city of Rome is a silent witness to this slow drying. In 1,000 workshops, things are settling, cooling, and drying. The collective patience of the empire is immense. No one is hurrying the morning. No one is rushing the sun. The night is a gift of time. The vats are still, the cloth is heavy, the wool is warm. There is no treading to do. There is no cleaning to finish. There is only the slow, damp heartbeat of the fuller's night. Everything is settling. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We leave the damp, quiet yard of the fuller and move toward the massive, silent structures of the Horia, the great Roman granaries. These are buildings made of heavy brick and thick timber, designed to hold the harvest of entire provinces. There is no need to pay attention. Let my voice be like the slow, dry slide of a single grain of wheat down a great wooden chute. The air around the granaries is different from the rest of the city. It is dry still and carries the deep, toasted scent of sun-dried emmer wheat and barley. It is a comforting, golden smell that reminds the body of the earth's bounty and the heat of a distant summer. Inside the thick walls, the temperature is perfectly constant. It is a neutral space, neither warm nor cold, a place where time is measured in seasons rather than hours. Listen to the silence of the grain. Inside the massive wooden bins, millions of tiny seeds are resting. They are piled high, creating a soft, sloping landscape of wheat. Occasionally, as the building settles, you can hear a tiny, dry shshsh as the grain shifts by a fraction of an inch. It is the sound of a mountain of food finding its balance. The sound is muffled, distant, and deeply peaceful. A lone guard, an older veteran, is resting near the main entrance. He is not standing at attention. He is sitting on a heavy oak bench, his back against the cool brick wall. He is wrapped in a thick cloak of dark, undyed wool, a sagum. This cloak is his home. It is heavy, smelling faintly of the wood smoke from his dinner and the lanolin of the fleece. He has pulled the edges of the wool over his knees and tucked his hands into his sleeves. He is a part of the building's stillness. His breathing is a slow, steady tide, in and out, in and out. The Roman night in the granary is a time of preservation. The grain is waiting to become bread. The guard is waiting for the dawn, but there is no anxiety in the waiting. The thick walls keep the humidity away, and the high ventilation slits allow only a tiny silver sliver of moonlight to touch the floor. The light is filled with tiny motes of grain dust, dancing in a slow, weightless ballet. You can let your thoughts be like those dust motes, floating without direction, eventually settling into the dark. Think about the solidity of the granary. The floors are raised on small stone pillars to let the air circulate underneath. This creates a cushion of silence between the earth and the grain. You are on a similar cushion now. You are elevated away from the worries of the world. You are held up by the strength of the history around you. The guard's eyes are closed. He knows every sound of this building, the wind in the eaves, the scuttle of a tiny mouse, the deep groan of the timber beams. None of these sounds disturb him. They are the heartbeat of his world. Like him, you can hear the quiet sounds of your own environment and let them fold into the background. They are just signs that the world is continuing to turn without your help. Imagine the weight of the wheat. It is heavy and dense. If you were to lie on a pile of grain, it would mold to your body, supporting every muscle. It would be a firm, earthy bed. You can feel that firmness now in your own bed. You are supported. You are secure. The Roman Empire is built on these piles of grain, and tonight the empire is asleep. The moon moves across the ventilation slit, and the sliver of light on the floor disappears. The darkness in the granary is now complete, a thick, warm, dusty darkness. It is a safe darkness. It is a place where nothing can be seen and therefore nothing needs to be done. The bins are full, the grain is still, the wool is heavy. There is no hunger to satisfy. There is no work to perform. There is only the slow, dry heartbeat of the harvest. Everything is stored, everything is slow, Everything is at peace. We drift away from the massive, dry silence of the granary and move toward the outskirts of the city, where the workshops of the potters, the figuli, line the quiet road. We are entering a long, open-sided shed where the day's work is left to settle. The air here is cool and carries the heavy, damp scent of river clay and the mineral tang of the earth. There is no need to pay attention to these words. Let them be like the slow, invisible drying of a clay jar in the midnight air. The shed is a simple structure of timber poles and a thatched roof. Inside, rows of wooden boards are filled with hundreds of small oil lamps and drinking cups, all shaped by hand on the wheel. They are in their leather-hard stage, no longer soft mud, but not yet stone. They are in a state of transition, perfectly still and boring in their repetitive shapes. Listen to the silence of the drying clay. As the water slowly leaves the porous walls of the jars, the air becomes slightly heavy and cool. There is no sound of fire, for the kilns were extinguished hours ago. The only sound is the very faint creak of the wooden boards as they settle under the weight of the cooling terracotta. It is a slow, rhythmic sound that marks the passage of the night without any hurry. The potter is sleeping in a small room at the back of the workshop. He is wrapped in a thick, coarse cloak of dark wool, a pinula. The wool is heavy and smells of the wood smoke from the kiln and the damp earth of his trade. He is lying on a simple bed of woven reeds which give slightly under his weight. His breathing is a slow, earthy rhythm, in and out, in and out. He is not dreaming of the finished pots, he is simply resting his hands, which have spent the day shaping the spinning clay. The Roman night in this shed is a time of hardening. The objects are becoming what they are meant to be through the simple act of waiting. There is no force involved, only the movement of time and air. You can feel a similar process in your own body. Your muscles are becoming heavy and still. Your thoughts are settling, losing their sharp edges, becoming smooth and quiet like the surface of a polished jar. Think about the texture of the cool clay. If you were to touch it, it would feel damp and smooth, pulling the warmth from your skin. But you are protected by your own layers of warmth. You are the observer of the cooling earth, tucked safely away in your own space. The jars do not need you to watch them. They will dry whether you are awake or asleep. You are free to let go. The temperature in the shed is lower than in the city center, as the damp clay holds the cold. A light mist from the nearby fields drifts through the open sides of the shed, curling around the bases of the large storage jars, the dolia. The moonlight catches the moisture in the air, creating a soft, silver haze. It is a world of gray, brown, and silver. Imagine the wheel in the main workshop. It is a heavy disk of stone, now motionless on its pivot. It has finished its dizzying dance for the day. It is perfectly balanced, perfectly still. You can let your mind be like that wheel. The spinning has stopped. The center is found. There is only the quiet weight of the stone. The city of Rome is a distant hum, almost imperceptible. Here, on the edge of the artisan district, the night belongs to the elements, to the earth, the water in the clay, and the cool night air. The empire is a vast collection of these quiet transitions. The boards are steady, the clay is cooling, the wool is heavy. There is no shape to form. There is no wheel to turn. There is only the slow, damp heartbeat of the potter's night. Everything is settling. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. We move away from the cooling clay of the pottery shed, drifting toward the very edge of the city where the stone-paved road begins its long journey toward the northern provinces. Here stands a quiet way station, a mansio. We are entering the long, low stable where the pack mules and horses are resting. The air here is thick, warm, and heavy, filled with the scent of dry clover, old leather, and the deep, comforting aroma of large, breathing animals. There is no need to focus. Let my voice be the soft rustle of straw in a place where time has slowed to a crawl. The stable is a sturdy building of rough stone and heavy timber beams. Inside, the darkness is soft and velvety. There are no flickering torches, only the pale, ghostly light of the moon filtering through small ventilation holes near the roof. This light touches the tops of the wooden stalls, turning the rough-cut timber into silver. Listen to the rhythm of the stable. It is a symphony of slow, heavy breathing. Hoo, ha, ha. The mules are standing or lying in deep beds of golden straw. Every few minutes, an animal shifts its weight, and you hear the slow, dry crunch, crunch of the stalks under a heavy hoof. Then a long, vibrating sigh as the animal settles again. It is a sound of absolute contentment. The mules do not worry about the miles they traveled today or the weight of the amphory they will carry tomorrow. They are only in the now, and the now is warm and still. In a small loft above the stalls, a muleteer is sleeping. He is a man of the road, and he knows how to find rest anywhere. He is lying on a pile of fresh hay, which smells of the summer sun and the open fields. He is wrapped in a thick hooded cloak of heavy, waterproof wool, a pinula. The wool is dark and coarse, smelling faintly of the animals he tends and the wood smoke of a roadside fire. He has pulled the hood over his eyes, creating a small, warm cave for his dreams. His breathing matches the rhythm of the mules below, in and out, in and out. The Roman night in this stable is a time of restoration. The muscles of the animals and the man are cooling and softening. There is no movement on the road outside. The heavy wooden gates of the way station are barred with a beam of solid oak. Inside, there is only the slow process of recovery. You can feel a similar restoration in your own limbs. Like the tired muleteer, you are letting the hay, the bed, support every inch of your weight. You are sinking. You are safe. On a wooden peg near the door, a heavy leather harness hangs. The bronze buckles are cold and silent. The leather is dark and supple, holding the shape of the animal it serves. It is a boring object, a tool of labor that is now a tool of silence. It does not jingle. It does not pull. It simply hangs as still as the stone walls. Think about the warmth in this room. It is a living heat, generated by the bodies of the animals and trapped by the thick thatch of the roof. It is a heavy, humid warmth that soothes the skin and slows the heart. The Roman night is full of these pockets of heat, where life persists in a slow, quiet hum. You are tucked into one of these pockets. The cold of the world is outside, and you are inside, wrapped in the wool of your own peace. Imagine the darkness of the straw. Each stalk is a tiny, hollow tube of gold holding the memory of the sun. Together, they form a soft, springy mattress that dampens all sound. If you were to drop a coin into it, it would make no noise at all. Your thoughts are like that, falling into the soft straw of your mind and disappearing into the silence. The moon is low now, and the light in the stable is fading as the shadows grow longer. The world is at its quietest. The road is empty. The city is a distant dream. There is only the straw, the wool, and the breathing. The stalls are steady. The mules are resting. The wool is heavy. There is no distance to travel. There is no burden to carry. There is only the slow, warm heartbeat of the traveler's night. Everything is recovered. Everything is slow. Everything is at peace. The warmth of the stable and the breathing of the mules remain behind as we drift toward the final destination of our journey. We are at the very heart of the Roman city, standing atop a quiet limestone watchtower that overlooks the vast, sleeping empire. The air here is the coldest it has been all night, a sharp, crystal-clear cold that smells of the high mountains and the distant, frozen stars. There is no need to focus now. This is the end of the night, the deepest part of the silence. Let my voice fade into the background like the last embers of a dying fire. From this height, the city of Rome is a sea of dark shadows. The thousands of rooftops we have visited, the barracks, the bakeries, the weavers' lofts, and the stonecutters' yards, are all merged into one silent gray landscape. There is no movement. Not a single lamp flickers in the windows. The million souls of the city are held in a collective, boring, and profound rest. They are all wrapped in their wool, tucked into their stone shells, breathing in unison with the turning of the earth. Listen to the silence of the empire. It is a massive, heavy thing. At this height, even the sound of the fountains is gone. There is only the wind, a slow and steady stream of air that moves across the marble pediments of the temples and the brick arches of the aqueducts. Whhhhhhh. It is a hollow, ancient sound. It is the sound of time passing over a world that is completely fulfilled. A lone sentry stands on the platform of the tower. He is a veteran of 20 years, and he knows the peace of the night better than any man. He is not looking for enemies. He is simply witnessing the stability of his world. He is wrapped in the heaviest cloak of all, a double-layered pinula made of dark, felted wool. It is so thick it could stand on its own. It is a solid wall of heat that protects him from the biting air. He leans his shoulder against the cold stone of the parapet, his body completely still. His breathing is the slowest it has been all night, in and out, in and out. Each breath is a tiny cloud of white mist that vanishes instantly into the dark. He is not thinking of the morning. He is not thinking of his relief. He is simply a part of the tower, a part of the stone, a part of the night. The Roman night is now at its absolute limit. The moon has set and the sky is a deep velvet black, crowded with more stars than the mind can count. Each star is a silent, cold point of light, watching over the sleeping barracks and the quiet workshops. The world is perfectly balanced between what was and what will be. There is no hurry for the sun to rise. The darkness is enough. The silence is enough. The wool is enough. Think about the journey we have taken. We have moved through the textures of the Roman world, the rough stone, the dry grain, the damp clay, and the heavy, honest wool. All of these things are now settled. All of the labor has been forgotten. The entire empire is a monument to boredom and peace. You are the center of this peace. You are the quiet observer at the top of the tower. Imagine the weight of the stone beneath the sentry's feet. It goes down, deep into the earth, rooted in the very foundation of the world. You are that rooted. You are that stable. The bed beneath you is your tower. The blankets around you are your heavy wool cloaks. You are encased in a history that does not require your action. You are safe to disappear into the shadows. The stars are beginning to pale in the far east, but the light is still an hour away. This is the hour of the deepest sleep, the hour where the heart beats the slowest, the hour where the mind finally lets go of the last thread of the day. The sentry closes his eyes for just a moment, trusting in the silence of the city. You can do the same. The world is still, the stone is deep, the wool is warm. The night has been long, the night has been boring, the night is over and sleep is here. There is no more to see, there is no more to hear, there is only the perfect, heavy darkness. Everything is finished, everything is slow, everything is at peace.